So to duplicate that here, I am using butternut squash. Clever, huh? And you can buy those any time of the year. So what you want to do is cut a butternut squash in half, put it in a baked dish face down, and add a little bit of water, and then bake it until it's soft. And then you want to clean out the flesh like this and strain it, because you want to get all that extra water out. You see the water that's in the bowl there? I want to discard that, because if I don't, I'm going to have a fairly wet gnocchi, and I don't want to have that happen. So this is about 1 1/4 cups of sieved pumpkin, or butternut squash in this case. And now to that we want to add a few other ingredients. An egg, of course, and I think Maria had an egg in hers. And then some cheese, Parmesan cheese. And Parmesan cheese comes from northern Italy, so we want to have a little bit of that. And then this, I think this is really an interesting thing to put in pumpkin gnocchi. This is something called amaretti, which are cookies that are made from both bitter and sweet almonds. And now let's see, I have my amaretti in there, and I need a little bit of nutmeg. This is very nice with this, and of course nutmeg you find in a lot of dishes that have spinach. So about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then a little bit of salt if you want. And now all I have to do is mix this up, and then I'm going to put this into what my grandmother called the fontana, or the well. You want to put some flour on a board and make these gnocchi much like you would be making a homemade pasta, or pasta fatta in casa. So get that mixed up very well, and let me tell you that those amaretti are going to give this a very unusual flavor. Now before I get going, I've got to heat up some butter here, because I'm going to be making a butter sauce. So I've got my butter heating up there. Now here, I've got 2 1/2 cups of unbleached flour. I may have to use a little bit more. It just depends on how wet my squash is. And here's my fontana, you see. I want to make a space in the middle to put my squash in, or my pumpkin. If you happen to have pumpkin, this is going to be even better. But butternut squash is going to work very well. Trust me. So now that's in. And now you have to start by incorporating the flour into the pumpkin or the squash. And now this may not take all of this flour, and I'm just going to have to see, because what I want here is a ball of dough that is going to hold together. And well, it needs about 5 more minutes of kneading until all this flour is no longer visible on the dough and you have a nice soft ball. So I think you get the idea for that. Now I'm going to set this aside. And now this has to be kneaded a little longer, so I'm going to clear the decks and add a little bit more flour to this. So you really want to make sure you let that dough rest for a few minutes. So now here's mine, and we really need to knead this a little longer. And you'll know that it's right when it isn't sticking to your hands any longer. And now you can form these as Maria did with a fork, or you can do them the way I'm going to do them, with a butter paddle, because that's what I'm used to from home. So after you've got your dough kneaded, then you want to work with small pieces at a time, because you could be rolling these out forever if you tried to roll out that whole wad of dough. And then just roll them under the palm of your hand. You see, like I'm doing here. And then you want to cut these up with a small knife into small pieces, and you can make them, about 1/2 to 1 inch long. So after you roll it out into a rope, like so, then take a knife and then just cut small pieces, you see. And you'll be rolling them again in a little bit of flour. So if they seem a little sticky, don't worry about it. They're going to hold together just fine. So then I give them, a little bit more flour, just a little sprinkling on the top, you see. And then I get out my little paddle to form ridges. And then just take a small piece like this, and it's just a matter of pressing your thumb, you see, down right into the dough. Now here I've got some butter melting in a small frying pan with about 2 or 3 sprigs of fresh rosemary leaves. And that's going to be the sauce for the top of the squash or pumpkin gnocchi. And now let me see how they're doing. So you want to put your gnocchi into some boiling water, and here are mine. Now make sure you have enough water when you start to boil these. You want at least 4 to 6 quarts. When you put the gnocchi in, you're going to have to wait a few minutes for them to come to the top, and then they're finished. And when they are, well, that's when you want to take them out. And you want to use a slotted spoon, and you see how nicely they held together. And you can still see the little ridges that we made. So get all that excess water off. And now I'm going to take a good helping of these because I think this is an absolutely delicious first course. And I sure wish Maria was here to be able to sample this. So let me get all of them out. I think I have enough room in my dish here. And then I'm just going to plop a few more in here for you before I put the sauce on. So then just gather them up like so. Cook a few at a time. I wouldn't cook that whole 12 dozen at once. And just put them in and let them come to the boil. And now for the butter. And I can just turn that off. And now, when you serve that, you just, oh brother, I just lost it there for a minute. You just want to take a little bit of that sauce, you see, and pour it right over the top. And I wish you could smell this. It's just absolutely infused with rosemary.